man. Send me some business, man. Mortgage, loan officer, and private money broker. My mic is loud. Where your mic, man? Put your mic over, man. Where your headphones, bro? What you doing, man?
You're the host, man.
This is the third time being on here, man. It ain't but It ain't but 2 people that's been on here 3 times. You one up. You tied with my grandson. Cornbread coming. Is it this week or next week? Corn. Cornbread. Yeah, he been on about 3 times. He ain't been on more than 3. Ain't nobody been on more than 3. Boy, you working on goddamn breaking news? That's the baddest man in the land right now. K-I-N-G-G. K-I-N-G-G. That's my goddamn claim to fame right there, boy. That's my goddamn. Ever since he was this tall. That's my goddamn guy. One and only. The goddamn graphic artist. Go! Turn the man microphone on, man. Man, turn his microphone on. Turn his microphone on. Why you play the other song, man? Play the other song. No, man, play. You ain't played the one. Man, play the fuck, man. Turn the microphone on, man. Man, turn the microphone on, man. Play the song. You ain't play it, man. You ain't play the regular one.
Dang, man.
Bro, play it.
I done played it.
Man, this some.
Leave that man alone, Joaquin. Why don't you start the people out?
This is.
Look here.
This, man.
What you see right there?
Play the song. Let me hear it, man. Let me hear the song, man.
Man.
Let me hear it. I ain't hear the song. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, man. Hold up, man. I wasn't doing that much. Nah, you ain't play that one. You played the first one. Nah, man, you ain't play that one, bro. You ain't play that one, man. You ain't play that one. You ain't play that one, man. Oh, hey, what's up, man? What you say, young buck? Hey, man, that's so goddamn. That's a young buck, boy. Your name ain't no young buck. No, young buck. No, bro, your name Justice. Came up with this right here, man.
All right, here you go. Start your show. You know how you started.
How I started? What we do?
Where you coming from?
Where we started?
Yeah.
Is this
there.
it?
Right there.
What we supposed to
Say
do?
it again.
What we supposed to do? What we supposed to do?
Okay.
Are we burning through time?
Yep.
Get in it. You told you ain't know that?
Yeah.
Get in. Ooh. Let me stop there for something. When you suck some of your throat. This is the Daily Bread Show. Hey, good evening. I'm your host, Joaquin Thompson Sr., coming to you live from where?
Liburn.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia. Home of the Dome, home of the Mercedes-Benz, shout. But this is what we doing, man. We over here on the Daily Bread Radio Show. This is episode 134. Hope I'm not double counting. 134, man. Listen what I'm saying to you, bro. I don't think y'all heard what I said, man. I said, wait a minute, bro. Let me that. Wait a minute, man. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, I just had a moment. Oh, man.
Let the people know, Lord.
Oh, your age check it in.
Do it to him,
Oh,
Joaquin.
man.
You ain't.
Man.
You don't look a day 153.
You old. You gonna use my joke on me. You old, boy. Oh, there's some people out there. Y'all need to tell them, boy, to say, hey, man, we should call it ranking, man. You don't want to do this, man. I'm trying to tell you. This is a kid-friendly show. You do not want to tell. I got that joker with that, man. He talking about it was his birthday. I said, what? I said, boy, you don't look a day over 50. Man, but, yeah, we got a lot of people tuning in for the first time, so we appreciate it. And this show, The Daily Bread Show, it's a weekly podcast, and this show is about personal finance. But the way that we do it, we have some ground rules. This show is about personal finance, but we do it from a spiritual perspective. Notice I said from a spiritual perspective. We do not do religion on the Daily Bread Show. So for those of you all that are tuning in for the first time, what does that mean? That means just this. We only do God. I'm going to just keep it short and sweet. We only do God on the Daily Bread. And the reason that's the only thing we do, if you see me do this, that's it. That's all you need to know. We only do God on the Daily Bread. So we don't get into, and if we're not going to be disrespectful of your religion. We're not going to say anything crazy about your religion. But we just saying, by me being the host and knowing what we were doing, we've done this 134 times. I'm not going to get into religion because people are like, this, I'm that. I don't care. I mean, it don't matter because at the end of the day, all roads lead where? To God. So that's all we do on the Daily Bread. And this show is about personal finance. And we talk about a variety of topics. Just think about it. 134 episodes. So we've talked about everything from the classics. What I call the classics are credit, savings, budget, debt elimination. Those are what I call the classics. You know what I'm saying? Those are the classics. Everybody want to talk about credit. Everybody want to talk about savings. Everybody want to talk about that kind of stuff. But we go deeper than that. I mean, because our show goes deeper because we also want to talk about what I call the dark side of personal finance, which is what? Repos. And wait a minute. Yeah, repos. And if you haven't experienced, if you haven't experienced a repo, let me tell you, it is one of the most invigorating activities that you could ever participate in. It is stimulating to the mind, and it's it will get you straight. Let me just tell you that it will get you straight.
How you know?
Oh man. How I know?
Tell the story, Joaquin. Tell him.
How you know?
Tell what story? About a repo?
Yeah,
It's
how
a
you
story.
know?
Who said I had a repo?
I don't know, dude.
I ain't said that. I
How
said
you
it was
know?
a story. I
Yeah,
said
how
you
you
had a
know?
story.
What, about a repo?
Well,
You talking about repossession?
Do you have any experience? How do you know?
Talking about, like, you talking about, like, losing your car?
I mean, you said it was invigorating.
Yeah.
It is. It's,
And how
Oh.
do you know that?
how do, well,
Come on, say it.
well, all right, I'll tell y'all, a friend of mine told me one time,
What's the name?
no, a friend of mine, Joe.
Joe.
We'll call him Joe.
Okay.
Joe told me, one time me and Joe was having a conversation, Joe said, man, you won't believe what happened to me.
Dang.
But wait a minute, man, before we go into the story.
Mm-hmm.
This is my co-host today, man. I can't go into the story without introducing, man,
Oh,
co-host.
Yes, you can. I'll get
No,
it.
co-host, introduce yourself, man.
Hello,
Introduce
everybody.
yourself.
My name is Cortland Mallory, but I'm better known by the name of Justice.
Better
I'm
known
a
by who?
Better known by everybody in the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia as Justice.
E22, man. How many people know you? You said where?
Well, it's in the-
All right, I'm gonna stay on task.
Please
task.
do.
All right, Justice. Joe. Joe told me. This is what Joe told me. Joe said
What Joe
he
had?
I want to make sure I hear this. Hold on.
Yeah.
Joe said he one time
One time.
he was he went to church. He went to church on a Wednesday night.
Oh, facts, yeah.
And it was him, his wife, and they had 3 kids. And they 3 kids were with them. So he, this was like what he called overtime. He had already been to church on Sunday. He done doubled back and went on Wednesday. So this overtime. So he was thinking he was in good graces, right? That he was covered. He was, protected, right? Because that's what the minister said. He's covered. So he said, well, I went Sunday. So he said he took his family again on Wednesday. The whole family. So the whole family went to church on Wednesday, had a good time, enjoyed the sermon. Now they traveling back home. So Joe said, when he pulled into the driveway, he said the first thing he noticed was, he said the car was not under the carport. So he was like, so he said he saw it, and he acted like he ain't see it. He said he just pulled on in. He pulled on in, but he didn't pull all the way into the carport because normally the car is there, so he just pulled into the driveway. So what happened when he stopped the car and his kids got out the car? The kids, when they got out the car, they started running around talking about call the police because somebody done stole the car. So I said, Joe, are you serious? He said, man, my 2 girls and my son jumped out that minivan, man, and they was like, Daddy, call the police, Daddy. And he said, man.
How many kids you got, okay?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, we're not talking about him right now.
We ain't talking about me. We talking about Joe.
Yeah, I just want to know how many kids you got, though.
How many kids I got?
Yeah.
Why is that important to the story?
The story, bro.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Why you bringing my kids into this, man? So anyway, so Joe said when the kids was running around, he kind of froze. He ain't know what to do. He was like, dang, I can't call the police. That's the repo man. So the kids was like, why aren't you calling the police? So he told them, why don't we go in the house and let me sit down. They said, no, why don't you call the police? And then he said, let's get in the house first so we can see. So we can sit down. Let me think through this. So I said, that's what you told your kids? He said, no, I ain't know what to say. And he said it was so embarrassing. And he said one of the first things he thought about is like, how did this happen to me coming from church? Right? He's like, how did God let this happen to me coming from church? So I said, man, I don't think that was God. I think that was you.
Yeah.
I don't think God operates in repossessions. I think what I think happened was you didn't pay your bill, you got behind, you was trying to make ends meet, and they didn't meet. And when they didn't meet, you had to think about what's more important. Meeting, your ends meeting, or meet for your kids. Meet for your family. So I think, Joe, that's probably what you did. You probably opted for meet instead of meeting. So Joe, when I told him that, he said, I said, well, Joe, what happened afterwards? He said, after that happened, what it did, it woke me up. He said, what happened then is, he said, I learned about repossessions. I learned what to do in order to prevent them from happening. And some people might say, oh, just pay your bill. I learned what not to do to keep it from happening. And I learned what to do if it occurred again in life. Because that's the thing in life, you don't know what's going to happen. So, after that, Joe was just, he felt better about it. But that's what I call the dark side. That's what we call the dark side of personal finance. And that's why I do the show, because many people want to talk about the classics. But the value is talking about the dark side. Because the dark side is where you learn the most stuff. Like, how do you manage when you just know you don't have enough income? you just know you don't have enough, whatever. Like, do you self-inflict, a self-inflicted wound, it hurts. It's just like if somebody else wounds you, right? But self-inflicted means you did it to yourself. But a lot of times when people get in trouble, they don't want to do a self-inflicted punishment like turn off the cable, right? Stop going out to dinner, right? Like do a voluntary repossession. Now, the other thing that Joe told me was this. After that happened, right? After that happened, you know what? He said he could sleep so much better because up until that point, every little beep, every little sound that he heard at night, he thought the repo man was coming. And he could not sleep. For months, anytime something, he would jump up, run downstairs, like, oh, okay, that ain't them. Okay. And then go back, get into bed. After that happened, he was like, you know what? Sleep like a baby.
Shoot, they got it already.
So they already got it, and, so what you got to pay, you're going to have a deficiency, but you learn how to deal with that type of stuff. So, I like to talk about both sides, but tonight, that's the Genesis. That's Genesis. Yeah. Tonight. But all right, so tonight what we're gonna talk about tonight? We're gonna talk about some topics that very few people know about. Very few people know about, and you're gonna hear about it on the Daily Bread tonight. So tonight we're gonna talk about two things. We're gonna talk about. You're not going to that board. You're gonna have to just talk. We're gonna talk about life insurance, because my co-host wanted to talk about life insurance. He's going to talk about life insurance. I'm going to talk about private equity investing. Private, listen, get your, look.
I want one. I'm not going to. Oh, you got to know, but you mind if I borrow that?
Huh, man, look, man. Go ahead, man. You got to take good notes, though.
Oh, I do.
You know what I'm saying? You got to take good notes.
One sentence per page.
Look at this.
Bam.
Look at this now. Did you see how that worked?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see how that worked? I gave him one and a pen, and then boom, look, I got my pen. Bam, right there. I'm ready to write. So we're gonna talk about life insurance, and then we're gonna pivot and we're gonna talk about private equity. Now, this private equity thing, if you're not writing, if I'm writing and you're not writing, that's a problem. That's all I'm gonna say. If I'm writing and you're not writing, that's a problem. I was just talking to a brother earlier. He was just like, hey, man, I do these shows. I'm giving you information that can change your life. I'm not shooting I ain't shooting no Fox, F-A-U-X. I'm not shooting no Fox or faux. Some people call it faux. I'm not shooting you no faux or no fugazi. I'm giving you something that if you take what I do and say tonight and you take it tomorrow and put it in play, you much better off. You much better off. And you going to learn and you will know more than the average bear, as Yogi would say. There you go. Right? You smarter than the average bear. Sure. So, all right, so I'll kick it off. I don't care. I'll kick it off. Hey, you what? No, I was the wrong one. I was thinking about something else. I was like, all right. Let me get back. All right, so we're going to talk about life insurance first. Mm-hmm. All right. I got the life insurance expert with me. Why are you the life insurance expert? Tell them about.
Sure thing.
Tell them.
I'm going to tell you a small little bit about myself.
Tell them a little bit.
I actually, while I was still in college, I got approached to participate in a case study competition by the Atlanta Association of Insurance Professionals. And upon the conclusion, I became a licensed property and casualty adjuster, as well as a licensed life agent.
You got a license?
I do. I have two.
You got two licenses?
I got two licenses, yeah. I got them before I got my degree, actually.
Before you got the degree?
Yeah.
Boy,
absolutely.
You smart, boy.
And so I
boy, you smart, boy.
Learning about life insurance.
Boy, you smart. Hey, boy.
I'm just trying my best out here, trying to make my mom.
Boy, you smart.
And I thought I'd tell you all about life insurance and about the new life insurance, really.
The what?
We call it the new life insurance because what do you think?
Listen, man. Listen, hold it. Time out. Man, don't Bro, this is the Daily Bread. Don't talk to my audience like the new life insurance.
Well, let me ask you
This
a
stuff
question.
been around
Let me
forever,
ask you a
man.
question.
We just starting to crack. We just starting to crack the code, like Da Vinci Code. We just doing the little thing.
Will you answer this question?
what?
for me?
Rubik's Cube.
The Rubik's Cube.
You gotta tell me something. What is life insurance for?
Bro, are you talking to
I'm
me?
asking you. Yeah, I'm asking you. What is it for?
It depends. It depends.
Tradition.
How about that?
You got viewers.
How about
right
that?
here.
It depends.
It does depend.
Bro,
You got viewers right now. Why
bro. They call my grandson Lil Smoke, man. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just stay in your lane. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it on national TV. This could end up on the TV show.
Funny.
Sunday nights, 9:30. Comcast, channel 295, the Daily Bread TV show. But go ahead, man. No, you go ahead. All right, okay, I'm going to play along. What is it used for? It's used for death.
Yes.
Okay? Is that what you want me to say?
That's exactly what
All
I
right.
wanted you to say.
All right, I'm going to
Typically,
play along. All right, it's
when we
used for
think about
death.
Life insurance.
It's used for death.
I mean, yeah. When you die,
Yeah.
you want your burial to be
Right,
covered.
right.
All the costs associated with your finances.
Right. True,
Typically why we
true.
buy life
Right.
insurance.
True. Right.
Now, the reason I call it the new life insurance is because as its tax haven status, you guys realize that's what life insurance. It's tax advantage. You don't pay any money on any proceeds that you receive from a life insurance policy.
Whoa.
And companies have had to
Is that new, though?
Oh, it is. And let me
Is that new? They just changed the tax code?
Well, let me continue to.
Oh, go ahead. I ain't going to interrupt you.
Yeah, let me
Go ahead, bro.
enlighten the
Go
folks.
ahead.
See,
Go ahead.
So life insurance is a competitive industry with multiple different people. Everybody's got life insurance. There are different companies that can give you life insurance. And so they had their big brains in the back and they thought, you know what, we need to add some things to this policy to make it more desirable. I mean,
Juicy.
People don't want to buy it.
Juicy.
I mean, people don't want to buy something that is only valuable to their family once they passed away. And so they thought, how do we innovate it? They innovated it by splitting up the traditional life insurance concept into three basic buckets. You got your term policies, your permanent policies, and your universal life policies. Now we're going to start with the term policy, which is actually...
You said term and what?
Term.
Term. And what was the other one?
We're going to start with term.
No, what are the three?
Term,
Uh-huh.
there's permanent,
Uh-huh.
there's universal life.
So what is permanent? You talking about whole life? Permanent? Is that what we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But tell him, man, say whole life.
No problem.
You know, we
whole life and
ain't got no
permanent
license.
It's permanent.
I got my license though.
What, do you understand?
I got a life
No,
insurance license.
No. Those
I'm
who
just
don't
saying.
have licenses hear the word permanent and they hear it's not gonna go away. They hear whole life and they hear what?
That means your whole life.
Facts.
Hey, I'm trying to coach you, man. Come on, man. I'm trying to coach you, man. I'm bringing you up to prime time, and look what you do, man. Look what you do, man. Look what you do.
In the table,
Man, that's what I told him, man. It's just like The Apprentice. I don't want to, man. I don't want to do it to you. How you gonna have it on just you? On your little feed, man. That's what they say. All right, go ahead, man. Go ahead. All right, go ahead. Whole life, permanent. What? All right, go ahead.
Most people actually purchase term policies because it's cheap. The big
True.
pro for getting a term policy is that it's the cheapest policy you can get. I've written up illustrations for people my age and even older. I mean, a 30-year-old woman came up at somewhere around $20 or so, and it was for a significant amount of death benefit. The only problem with term policies is, well, they're term. They're temporary. They only span for a period of 15 to 30 years, and then it's gone. You lost all your money. It's not gonna.
It's gone. Just say it's terminated.
It's gone.
It's gone. It's like renting, man.
It's exactly like renting.
Right? It's like renting. It's like renting life insurance. Okay, that's just say it like that. Just
However, term does have its uses, and this kind of goes back to what Joaquin was talking about earlier. Why do we buy life insurance? Well, we buy it for a variety of reasons. And one of those reasons to buy a term policy is actually to hedge against a financial liability that you have elsewhere.
Like a house.
Like a house. Exactly like a house. We call this mortgage.
Man, we like Run
protection
DMC.
insurance.
Run DMC.
You know what I'm
Exactly
saying?
like Run DMC.
We like,
What is this?
hey man, they buzzing you. They like, hey man, you famous, bro. You on the Daily Bread, baby. They're calling. You like, where you at? Where I see you? I'm trying to tell you.
Who is that? Is that you?
Nah, bro.
Who is that?
Man, cut this off, man.
Man.
Tell them you're on
I'm
TV,
sorry.
man.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry about that, everybody. So the term policy does have its uses, right? And I've seen people use this to hedge against the financial liabilities that they have, both from homeowners insurance. If you own a home and you have children or you have offspring that you wish to own said home, not only does it help you in the process of getting your mortgage to have a term policy to hedge against
True.
how much you would be taking out,
True.
but also in the event that you unfortunately pass before you were able to satisfy the terms of your mortgage, you would also have a term policy that when such tragedy happens, goes and pays off the house. And it's tax advantage. So if you have a mortgage that's, about $300,000 worth.
No, that's too much. That's too much.
And you have a term policy that's $300,000.
Oh, now that's.
Yeah, you got and that don't cost that much. You'd be surprised.
That cost like $20, right?
I'm not gonna shoot for
You
that.
just said
I'm not
$20.
gonna
You
shoot
just
for
said $20,
I
bro.
said in certain circumstances, but I will
You
say
said 30-year-old woman, $20.
I will say that $300.
And it was a significant amount. Ain't 300 significant?
Well, that number was 50,000 more actually.
See? $20.
I don't want to shoot.
Y'all got $20, man. My audience got $20.
Yeah, look, like I'm saying, it's cheap.
Come on, bro.
We said it was cheap, didn't we?
I said it was inexpensive.
It's inexpensive. It's the cheapest form of insurance that you're gonna buy. But this is also something that you
Look,
can
man.
work with. So we're talking about cars. We're talking about college for your children. There are a variety of different things that you realize will take a span of time. And if there is a possibility that you don't make it to the end of such a commitment, this policy will cover it. And that is the biggest reason that
That's a
people
financial play. That's a good financial play.
It's a huge financial play.
Yeah.
And it's a bit
I got
underrated. It's a bit underrated. You can.
Man, you got like 3 more minutes, man, because you still on term. They got it. Term is like renting.
He's gonna interrupt me and then say
I ain't gonna interrupt you. Go ahead, bro. You got 3 minutes. No.
So now the next one is permanent. The permanent policy has an obvious upside in that
Whole life. Is that the same as whole life?
It's the same as whole life.
Okay.
It's a whole life policy.
Okay.
Permanent policy is the one that people typically think they're getting when they purchase insurance. You think it's gonna last, just generally speaking.
True.
But the negative to that is that it's gonna cost more. Naturally. Instead of the policy lasting at a maximum of 30 years, it'll last until you're 100 or pass.
Yeah.
Whichever one.
125.
Whichever one comes first.
Yep.
And there are a lot of benefits to permanent policies that exist now that didn't exist previous, and which is why we refer to it as the new life insurance. The reason we call it that is actually because that competition, the competitive space of insurance companies in the last, I'm going to go and say 50 years, has led them to add different things to permanent policies that allow you to do something that people don't realize you can do. Which
Like what we going to talk about?
Paying it off early.
Ooh.
Paying it off early. Ooh. Did you realize you could have a permanent policy and pay it off like out the gate?
Yeah,
Not only can you pay it off at the gate, but you can.
What kind? Tell them like a 10-year, 20-year? What are we talking about?
Oh, it depends on your financial condition and your situation.
I'm just saying the type of policy. What are we talking about? A 10-year policy? 20-year policy?
We're talking about
25
a whole life
year
policy. It's
I know.
Permanent. We're not talking about term. The term policy is going to be paid every single month. We're talking about permanent. And the permanent one is not going to go away. That's it. Just as long as you keep paying on it or you overfunded it to a point where the dividend interest is paying.
Man, they going to take your...
You're good.
Man, they... Hey, Justice, I'm trying to take you there.
Take me there, then.
This my man. This dude is brilliant, man. Morehouse graduate. Man, we went to Morehouse. What else?
We got one last one, and this is the big one. This is the one you want to hear.
No, yeah. You know the one I want to hear. We ain't talking about the one I want to hear.
No, this is
because you start driving off the road when I tell you about the one I want to hear. We said we was gonna talk about the infinite banking system.
We did say that.
Didn't we say that?
We did say that.
When I practiced with you, when I talked to you last week, and you said, "Hey," I said, "Hey, man, you can come on the show. Just come on next Thursday." Oh, I can't. I said, "Man, come on to the show. What are we gonna talk about?" I said, "What are we gonna talk about?" I said, "We were supposed to talk about infinite banking the last time you was here. You came on with that dashiki, threw us all off with the dashikis on."
There's another thing that can be done with the whole life policy.
And the burgundy.
There is another thing that
the
can
burgundy pants and them hard shoes and threw us off. And I said, "This time."
Going back to the
this time.
That life insurance
this time.
some provisions
this time.
within.
Listen, man, we said we was gonna do the infinite banking system.
We're going into it. So with a certain type and certain configurations within the policy, I highly advise that you consult with a life insurance agent. Most definitely. Do not do this on your own. You see what I'm saying? He's walking away because this is some knowledge that they keep away from people in our communities. Just to give you a little bit about our backstory, I was born to a single teenage mother in Albany, New York. If anybody is familiar with how things are in Albany, New York, it is probably the most, if not one of the most racist cities in New York. And I am very much aware that the financial knowledge being given today is not supposed to be from this mouthpiece. Not at all. And I'm not.
Tell him, dog. Tell him.
The idea is that when you take out a loan,
there's
no such thing as favorable loan terms because you have to pay back more money than you took. That's the idea. There's quote unquote no such thing. However, within the context of a whole life policy, a specific one with particular points in the non-contributory and some other things, this deserves to be written. It has to be written on the board to make it really understandable. So I definitely want to go ahead and dumb down on that. But there are provisions within the policy that will allow you to put up a certain amount of money into a whole life policy. And we're going to use the easy example of $40,000. This
what?
Is a lot. That's a lot.
$40,000?
You can accumulate $40,000.
God damn, Morehouse.
Into a whole life policy.
Okay.
And
over time?
Either over time or all at once.
Ooh.
It depends on who you are. I don't know if you're big balling. If you're big balling, I would just put it in all at once.
Okay.
That's just my personal.
All right. Okay.
What these insurance policies now allow you to do is take advantage of something called living benefits. And living benefits are a different amount of reasons that you can access the cash value that's been put into your policy. So, for example, if you are critical or chronically ill, you might be able to take out some of the money in your insurance policy to help pay your bills. This is one of the many provisions that was a result of the competition that life insurance companies had with one another because it was just too stale. And in this policy, you can take out a loan. You can take out the cash value.
Wait a minute. So you saying
you can take a loan out on the money that you put up.
You can take a loan
out from yourself.
That's a loan. You said I could take the money out, but whatever, they gonna run my credit?
Now hold on now. No, that's your money. There's no credit check. There's none of that. That's
your money.
That's your money. You put it in there. That's yours.
Hold up, bro. No, don't do that on this show, man. Don't you ever, never do that on this show, man.
That is your money.
I say what?
Says the screamer himself. I'm dead. Says the screamer himself. Now, in the context of if you work with an agent and we're intentional about setting up a particular whole life policy with the intention of infinite banking, this is what they've coined it. They've called it infinite banking because you are banking from yourself. And you might think, how? Is there some sort of there's a catch, right? There's an interest rate, isn't there? If I take out the money,
there is an interest rate.
There is an interest rate.
But who you paying? But who you paying back?
There's a way.
Who you paying? Who's the interest going to?
Well, the interest
There's an interest that they charge on the loan, but when you pay the loan back, where's the interest going?
To the insurance company.
No. It's going back to who? It's going back to you. And see, that's the other part that we got to get real savvy about. Because, no, you're right. It goes back to them. They charge you interest, right? But here's the thing. And that's the part about the infinite banking system. You have to get books, do research so that way you understand. It's a concept that's so powerful. It's simple, but it's hard to understand at times.
I just gotta say it.
Say it.
Because in reality, they set the interest rate. The interest rate is set.
Yeah.
You know what it is. There's just two different provisions within the policy that will determine the way that they weigh a separate interest of you actually taking the loan out. And this has to do with direct recognition and non-direct recognition. This is an interesting concept. It's where the bank essentially, or not the bank, I'm sorry about that. The insurance company essentially says, this person, and we can use me for example, Cortland is taking out this money,
Right.
that is direct. They know exactly who it is. It says that is who is taking it. That's who's putting it in. That's
Right.
who's taking it out.
Right.
I am taxed in a disadvantaged way. There's a 4.5 to 6% spread, so I end up paying 1.5%
Right.
on that loan because it is me. However, if it is non-direct recognition and it's just saying that this is being contributed into, and this money is being taken out.
I mean, I'm getting a policy on somebody else. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that's not what I'm saying.
You the policy owner?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that
What you
this
saying?
policy is being funded, and someone has withdrawn the funds. The funds have been withdrawn, and the funds are being deposited. That is essentially how they reword the language. So it goes from you to somebody. It's happening. It's happening. And when they switch the language, the percentage that you're taxed on,
What I'm gonna do
drops.
with it, guy?
it drops.
What I'm gonna do with
And
you,
instead
man?
of you paying 1.5% for taking out the loan, that actually is inverted back to you.
What
And
I'm gonna do
would
with you,
make
man? Listen, man. You don't
1.5%
win.
on taking a loan out of your own money. So, in layman's terms, what does this mean, right? Like in layman's terms.
Yeah, because the people I'm looking at the people, they like this.
Yeah, right. Like drowsy, sleep. I'm a
Hey, come back.
We're doing all this.
Hey, we still here. I know y'all like,
what's
man,
going
we
on?
ain't got no commercials. Come on, bro. Get it. Hey, wrap it up.
Have you ever needed $1,500 on the fly?
$1,500.
Yeah, just
I ain't never
$1,500.
need no
Have you ever
$1,500.
needed
What I'm gonna do with $1,500?
$100 on the fly?
$100?
You ever need to pay a bill? You ever need to make rent?
My
You ever
friend
need-
did. Joe needed. Joe needed
Oh,
that
Joe needed
money.
that.
Yes.
That. Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
Joe
That
could
man,
have used.
Joe.
He
Yeah,
could have
we
used
talked
that
to Joe later.
$1,500, man.
Facts. With this infinite banking concept, you can take a loan out of the money that you already put in there
Uh-huh.
to receive interest on it, just to turn around and put the lump sum of money back into the policy so that you can do it all over again. I
Is that powerful?
Please sit with that.
Listen, man.
Please
Listen.
sit with that.
Go.
Please.
Go. Put this in the chat. Put this in the chat. Becoming. What's the one by R. Nelson Nash? Becoming your own bank. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But if you Google R. Nelson Nash. R. Nelson Nash. He's the pioneer of the infinite banking system. And I believe his book is called Becoming Your Own Bank. Is that what it is?
I don't know.
Are you Googling it? Becoming Your Own Bank. I think that's what it's called. But yeah, man, Google it. But while my producer's Googling that, the other thing that, and Cortland did an outstanding job explaining that to you all. But here's the thing that I want everybody to understand. First of all, the 40,000, and that was something that me and Cortland talked about. A lot of times people, and I'm not talking about Cortland, I'm talking about people outside of the African American community. When they tell us about things, they'll use a large number so that way it just kind of goes over your head where you like, I ain't got no $40,000. So you stop listening. But here's the thing, and this was something that we talked about, and I was sharing with Cortland too, was that when I learned about this concept, I studied it. I studied it first. I read 3 different books. One was by R. Nelson Nash, I believe it's called Becoming Your Own Bank. No, I know that. Bank on Yourself. Bank on Yourself. I got $100. That's what it's called. Bank on Yourself by R. Nelson Nash. Bank on Yourself. No, that's Pamela Yellen.
My God.
Okay, we got one.
Pamela
here.
Yellen.
Own your own bank. Unlock the infinite.
That's it. Becoming Your Own Bank, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's R. Nelson Nash. And then Bank on Yourself is by Pamela Yellen. Yelln. That's the second book that I wrote. Bank on Yourself was the second book. I gave you the first one. The second book was by Pamela Yellen. And this is a great segue into the next topic. The third book is called, listen to this one, The Banker's Code by George Antone. Antone. The Banker's Code. And what is The Banker's Code about? The Banker's Code is a book that talks about the infinite banking system, but then they take it a step further and say, hey, that money that you have in that policy might be getting you 5%, 4%, 2%, 3%, but it's a calculated and it's a consistent dividend that's being paid. The insurance companies can't guarantee a dividend, but the thing you have to keep in mind is this. Historically, and I'm talking about over 150 years, no insurance company has missed giving or paying out a dividend in 150 years. So is it highly likely that they're going to continue to pay a dividend? Very much so. So what happens is when you read the Banker's Code starts to tell you about how you can leverage that money and start lending that money out to other people at a higher interest rate, 10%, 12%, 13%, 15%, and get a larger return. That's why it's called a spread, right? So you paying them 5% on the money, but you take that same money and you're lending it out for 10 or 12 or even 15%, right? So what does that sound like? Who does that already? Banks. And guess how they fund it? You and me. Me and you, your mama and your cousins too. Hey, like Outkast said, that's when you put money into a bank, into your checking account, and your money is sitting in a checking account. The bank does this. It's called overnight rate. They do it every night. You know how you be waiting on, your checks to post at midnight? What the bank is doing is between the time that you put the money in the bank and the next business day, the bank has invested your money overnight to get a small percentage on your money. And then, that's just one way they do it. And then the other way they do it is this. They take your money and then they turn around and they lend it out. So you put your money into a checking account and a savings account, and they say, hey, we're going to give you 1%. You're like, wow, 1%? Oh, my God. So then they take your money and go right to Cortland and say, hey, you want a loan for a car? Here's $24,000, and you can give me 7% back over the next 6 years. Right? Does that sound fair? Yeah. But when you do the actual calculations, the bank is not making 23%. They're making like 300 and 400%. This is facts. You can Google it. I always tell you, fact check me. Google it. Google this. The largest entity that uses life insurance policies are who? Banks. Google it. Corporate-owned life policies. I think it's corporate-owned. The CO, I think it's life policies. But just Google it. Just say life insurance corporations or bank-owned life insurance. No, better yet, bank-owned life insurance. And that's what it is, BOLI, bank-owned life insurance. And see what that comes up as. That's the money that they use to lend out to people. And here's a kicker. For every dollar, listen to this now, for every dollar that the bank has on deposit, so that means if you invest $1 into the bank, how much can they lend on that $1? By law. I ain't say by what they want to do. I said by law. How much can a bank lend on $1? How much can a bank lend on $1? If they have $1, one customer came in and put $1 in, how much can that bank lend on this $1? $10. $10. By law. They only got $1 on deposit, and the bank can lend up to $10 on $1. So do the math. You put in $1, the bank loans $10 on $1 and add interest on top. So this book called The Banker's Code, what it tells you is this. You can take that money out that life insurance policy. You can start to lend that money to people. And who is the largest group of people, individuals, that need money quickly? They need money. They need it fast. And it's backed by real estate. The real estate investor. Because the real estate investor, when they go to traditional banks don't loan on fix and flips. You go to Bank of America and tell them that. Hey, I saw this house. It's 150. It only need 40,000 to rehab, and I'm gonna sell it at 250. You know what they're gonna say? Bam! They're gonna be like, sir, you in the wrong location. So then where you got to go? You have to go to private equity firms, hard money lenders, right? Because then you're dealing with higher interest money. It costs the money. That's when they say the money is more expensive. So what I've been certified to do, last weekend, I went through a course. I was already a licensed mortgage loan officer, right? So that means this, owner occupied. If you need to buy a house, the first step in the home buying process is what? Get pre-approved. So if you know somebody buying a house, refinancing a house, call me. Get in touch with me. You can call me, email me, call my, office number, 470-322-5122. You can email me, Joaquin, Joaquin, Thompson, Thompson, SR @yahoo.com. But only send me, only reach out to me if you're serious. I mean, and I have to say that because sometimes people, call with, something. But I'll help anybody, but just make sure it's a serious inquiry. But that's for owner occupied. Now, last weekend I took this exam, took the course. It was a 4-day course, and then took this 100-question exam. And I was so excited because on this 100-question exam, what did I get? What did I score? Oh, and you have to have a 70. You have to pass the exam in order for them to even allow you to lend money or become a certified broker, right? So I passed the test. Flying colors, right? Start doing the deals. But here's the thing. I'm lending. And I put this on Facebook, and I think some people thought I was joking. I have access. I'm not saying it's in my pocket because that'd be too big to put in my pocket. Mm-hmm. But listen to this number. I have access to $20 million that needs to be invested in real estate. Why is that important? That's important because we all know somebody that's either want to buy some real estate, trying to find a way to solve a problem through real estate. Somebody passed away in their family, an aunt, an uncle, a friend, or something. They don't know what to do with the house. They don't want the house. They done moved out of town. They need to do something, right? And then you have people that want to get into real estate. Don't know what to do, don't know how to do it, but I know I'm getting old. I can't just rely on Social Security, so I want to buy me a little piece of property, right? I have access to that capital. And here's the biggest thing about it. Your credit don't matter. We have no credit limits. You can have a 404. I didn't say area code. I said credit score. A 4.
Terrible.
Okay, so you can have a 4. Listen to this now. And the reason this is important because of this very reason. I was talking to a leader in the Atlanta real estate market, and I mean from a government standpoint, recently, like as in today, and was talking to this leader, and I said, I have access to this private equity money. Credit doesn't matter, right? And he said to me, you need to read this book. Because when I started telling him, he said, no, you need to read. This is what he told me. You need to read this book. It's called The Color. And this is a hint. You know how your teacher be telling you? This will be on the exam. Hint. You need to read a book entitled The Color of Money. Okay? The Color of Money. Now, I'm saying this. Google it, bro. You're a millennial. You don't need. I just gave it to you. If you Google that, you got it. I don't have the author because I ain't read the book. If I had read it, I'd Google it. I have it. Don't worry about that. But I got my book of the week too. You don't know nothing about that. So you got to be able to put them up on game. But here's the private equity game. Say you got a credit score of a 404 and you want to get into real estate. But your aunt had a house. She passed away, or she just got to the point where she don't want the house. So we're not gonna say she passed away. She's at a point where she's just like, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of renters. I'm tired of tenants. I just want to And you say, well, man, my credit messed up, and I don't have no money. Guess what? You bring the deal. We loan on the deal. We loan on the deal. So if the deal is good, meaning $150,000, $20,000 in rehab, after repair values, $200, $225. Okay. We lend on that. We will give you the money on that with a 404 credit score. And 404 is terrible. That's horrendous. If you went to the bank with a 404, they would be like, it's nothing we can do for you. It's over. You in financial hospice. It's done. Right? So what I'm saying to you is this. We cannot stand by idly when we have access to this type of money, because historically we have never had access to capital to invest. We was just trying to get into our own, just our house. That was like the big thing, like, oh, I'm buying a house. Okay, we done did that. Now we got to start looking at building wealth. And the way you build wealth is through real estate. So if you know anybody, if you want to learn more, just hit me up. I said 20, and that's the start. That ain't the end. That's not like all of the money of it. The guy told me, I said, well, how many deals can I do? He said, how many can you do? I said, no, I mean, how many can I do? How many can you do? I said, oh, okay. So I'm saying for us, what I'm charging you all to do is get the word out. Because when I put it on Facebook, all the people that be hitting me for different stuff, like, man, this, oh, that was good. I got 5 people that reached out to me, and I left a phone number. I left a phone number in the post that said, I have $20 million. So I'm saying if you know somebody, and that's private equity money, meaning these people have the money. It ain't through the bank. It's a private equity fund, and they lending money. So if you want to get into the game, or if you know or if you just want to take advantage of some real estate that you know about, because you might be saying, I'm not a real estate investor. Yes, you are. If you know about a deal, and a deal is just knowing about a property, friend, family, or foe, right? Boarded up house in your neighborhood. Think about that house next to your aunt or your uncle's house. You be going over there and that house been boarded up for years. Do you think they would be happy if somebody came in there and took them boards off and fixed that house? It would bring their property values up. It would bring their property values up. Research says this. If you stay next door to a house that is vacant, do you realize that your property value goes down on average by 10%? If it's more than 3 houses on your street that are vacant or uninhabited, your whole area, your neighborhood collectively goes down by an aggregate of at least 10%. So I'm saying, as African Americans, that we have all these different resources, we need to tap into, woo-wee. Okay, here we go. The Color of Money, Black Banks and the Racial Wealth Gap by Mercer Baradaran. You asked about the author. There it is, right there. The Color of Money, Black Banks and the Racial Wealth Gap. All right? So make sure y'all go pick that up. And
Mercer Baradaran. That's MERSABARADARAN.
See, that's why we keep him around. Smart, brilliant young man. But I'm serious, man. Make sure y'all take advantage of the private equity. Sunday nights. I see the viewership coming up. I'm looking at the analytics. Sunday night, 9:30, Comcast, channel 295. AT&T U-verse, channel 6. Do you realize I had DirecTV? And I had to get rid of DirecTV and get AT&T U-verse so I could see the show? I told the guy was like, do you realize that the installation guy came to my house on Monday, on Martin Luther King Day, to install AT&T U-verse? You know what he said to me? No, he said it to my wife. You know what he told my wife?
What?
Shout out to my wife, the super girl, Tanya Thompson. Shout it out. This joker was with AT&T. You know what he told my wife?
What that?
He came to my house to install AT&T U-verse. You know what he told my wife?
What did he say to him?
Do you realize what he said to my wife? He said, why are you getting AT&T U-verse installed? And she was like, well, what? So she came and got me. She said, I think you need to talk to the guy. I said, talk to the guy about what? Like, and he going to stop. She said, he asked me, why are we getting AT&T U-verse? I said, what? I said, he said, well, I prefer DirecTV.
This joint is 30 pages.
I said, bruh, and you work for AT&T? And you saying that? Now, you'd be mad if I called them back on that survey you told me to call in on and tell them, hey, this dude here recommended DirecTV. Because basically that's what he did. But anyway, I had to break it down to him. I said, nah. I said, there's a special show that comes on. There's a special show that comes on every Sunday night with a special host. It's called The Daily Bread. And it comes on at 9:30. Comcast, channel 295. AT&T U-verse, channel 6. And if you're outside of Georgia, or if you don't have one of those two cable networks, then you just go to AIBTV/AIB everywhere, and you can see the show. AIBTV.com/AIB everywhere, and you can see the show every Sunday night. So, what we started to do is we started to take clips from the podcast and feature them on the TV show. Hence, free advertising for DKM Radio, because if you had watched the show last week, you would have seen DKM Radio on the Daily Bread Show on the TV. But since he wasn't jumping for joy when I came into the studio, that let me know what? He didn't watch the show. Because this was on that.
You know what I was doing Sunday?
Don't tell me nothing about no missionary work. Don't tell me about none of that, man. Don't tell me none of that. You was washing feet, and I don't want to hear none of that. But make sure what we're saying is, in the book of the week this week, check this one out.
It's only 30 pages. I was already into it. That is from Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of this country, boy. I want this book. Let me tell you, this is The Way to Wealth. And I just saw it just now with you on here as he pulled it out. I read to page 12, and I am already sweating. I want it.
You are sweating, dog. Man, give it a book. I looked up, that's like, man, you.
It's wild.
I'm like, boy. You like, whoop, whoop. Hey, man. He said he just flipped to page 12, right?
Now, no. I read to page 12.
Oh, you damn that quick?
It's
Man, you brilliant, man.
pages.
You brilliant, man. Well, go ahead and keep reading. You can finish before the show.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Anyway. The Way to Wealth. Listen, you see how small this book is? But it don't have nothing to do with that.
Pages.
Listen, it's 30 pages, but check this out. It's 30 pages of powerful information that this man, see, a lot of people don't realize that Benjamin Franklin was credited as being America's first entrepreneur. It's a reason. And see, these are the things that kind of go over people's head. They like, man, I wonder how that happened. It's a reason why. Who's on the dollar bill? Who's on the dollar bill? George, right? Who's the first president of the United States? George, right?
Oh, wow.
Who's on the dollar bill? George Washington, right? Okay. So let's think about this. Who's on the $20 bill? Jackson, right? Who's on the $20 bill? Jackson, right? All right. Who's on the $50 bill? Grant, right? Grant is on the $50 bill, right? Who's on the $100 bill?
Oh, I think I know that one.
Who's nothing but the Benjamins is on the 100. What is the most popular bill in circulation? The $100 bill. Okay? It's a reason why. Listen, Benjamin Franklin. Let me tell y'all, for people that don't know about Benjamin Franklin, I'm gonna give you the short version because we done ran out of time. Our producer that gave us a few extra minutes because we started late, but we got 1 minute left. Let me tell you a quick story about Benjamin Franklin. Who started the U.S. Postal Service? Benjamin Franklin started the U.S. Postal System. What? Yes. Who started the telephone and telegraph company? Not before Alexander Graham Bell, when they had the telegraph. Who started that? Benjamin Franklin. Who started Wells Fargo? Benjamin Franklin. He also had an almanac that he sold every year. And he sold his almanacs. He was selling, this is 1775. So how much could you buy for a penny in 1775? He was selling 10,000 almanacs at 5 cents a piece. In 1776, bruh. This guy, the way to wealth. Now I'm gonna just turn to a quick little page and see what he's talking about. Let's see what he says.
Oh, I'll tell you a little bit.
No, I'm gonna just hit you with some of this. All right, he talking about industry. That means to work, right? He says, listen to this. He says, if you love life, then do not squander time, for that is the stuff that life is made of. This Benjamin Franklin. He said, the sleeping fox catches no poultry. Bruh, lost time is never found again. He who rises late, listen to this. He who rises late must trot all day. God dang, dog. You ain't got to read it. Listen to this. There are no gains without pain. What? At the working man's house, listen to this. We're going to end on this. Listen to this. He said, at the working man's house. This is 1776, bruh. You know what this guy said? Listen what he says, man. He said, at the working man's house, hunger, listen to this, hunger looks in, but dares not enter. Did you hear what he said, bruh? Did you hear that, man? No, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me say one more. Hold it. Listen to this one now. This is for all you, what I call them, SpongeBob SquarePants, right? Listen to this. Those who will not be counseled cannot be helped.
This is the daily bread. 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 Walking El Time. We walking El Time. Walking El Time. We walking El Time.
I'll always have a positive word because I'm here to serve. I'll always have a positive word because I'm here to serve.
So you find that you look cool. If not, here's what to do. Promise you won't be misled. Just tune in to the daily bread. You have all the tools you need to help you to succeed.